hypothesis test for our individual battles here. Basically want to walk through and to show you the steps you need to take. So here I am, I'm doing battle 6, our first one. And this basically is going to be the same thing for every single time that you turn around and do a test. So I have things basically structured out in a way, but here's our first test. So there's a claim. So we need to pick a claim, one of these 3 items, and I'm going to turn around and I'm going to move my king, and I'm going to say I'm going to pick the claim that it's less than 900. So that's what I'm claiming. I'm walking in and saying the average hit points for our all cards at level 9 is less than 900. Okay? So then what I got to do next is I got to come over here and I got to change the words. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to say the claim is less than 900. So since it's less than, I have to put it here. The average for level 9 hit points is less than 900. That's because it doesn't have the equal sign. That has to go there, and that's the claim. So I'm going to drag this here and say that's the claim. That's what I'm walking in testing. That's what I want to find out. Now here, this has to be that the average is more, let's do it this way, greater than or equal to 900. That has to have the equal sign to it because the null always has to have the equal sign. So symbolically speaking, right down here, we should say that the average in this particular one is greater than or equal to. So I'm going to use that symbol right there, and that's 900 because the null always has to have the equal sign. The alternative would be less than. So I'm just going to delete this and say the average is less than 900. So that's what I'm doing right there. I'm just setting that up, and that's how I get my symbol. So I'm going to pop backward. Right here that says is less than, so that doesn't have the equal to symbol. So that is less than, that's the one I'm picking. So is less than is right here, and that's the claim. That's why the king is being moved right there. Then the greater than or equal to has to go in the null because the equal sign right here always has to be in the null. Now, for my test, I'm just going to choose all 20 cards, okay? So I'm going to just pick all 20 just to make it easier. So I need to go to the level 9 hit points. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to come straight over here to level 9 hit points, which is this column right here, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually run a stat z one sample with data because I have all the data, one sample, and it's a z because I'm giving you a known standard deviation right here. The known standard deviation is 869. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to choose hit points level 9. Now I'm going to choose the 869 right here. If I know the standard deviation, I plug it in, and I use a z-test. If I don't know the standard deviation, I don't plug it in, and I use a t-test. T is in Tom. So now down here, I have to choose my correct hypotheses. So I'm going to go back over here, and the number I'm testing is 900. I have to be less than 900. So I'm going to change this number to 900, and I'm going to change this to less than. So this now matches this over here. So the less than 900, less than 900. When I'm done, I hit compute. And the number I want to know about is right here, that p-value. I have to conduct the test with these cards, and I want to do a 5% significance value. So I'm going to compare it to 0.05. Is this number greater than 0.05? Now, what that means is this. Now, according to the result, which one do I agree with? If the p-value is greater than that, I agree with the null. So I'm going to drag this guy here. If this p-value is less than 0.05, I would drag the guy here because the alternative is what I would agree with. So you compare the p-values to your significance level, and in doing so, I agree with the null if the p-value is more, and I agree with the alternative if the p-value is less. So in this particular problem, since I have a 0.91 and the 0.05 is my thing, I agree with the null, which means I fail to reject. So I would drag the king there. So what does this mean? This means I fail to reject the null hypothesis as I did not find. Now, here's the key. I got to go back to my claim. My claim said that the average for level 9 hit points is less than 900. That's what I was looking at. Is the level 9 hit points less than 900? Well, here I agreed with the null, and the null said that nope, it's more than 900, but I don't report it like it's more than 900. I failed to reject the null hypothesis as I did not find that the mean was less than 900 because I went in testing to see if the mean was less than 900. And what I found is the null, which was this, I found that the average was greater than or equal to 900, but I don't say the average is greater than or equal to 900 because my claim was less than 900. So when I report it, I say I failed to reject the null. I failed to reject the null because I didn't find that it was less than 900. I don't sit down and say that I found it was more than 900. I said I didn't find it was less than because that's what I went in testing. And that right there is the entire step you need to do. That's how you walk through basically every test. The only thing that's going to change in this entire process is we're going to use z-tests, we're going to use t-tests, we're going to use proportional tests, we're going to use ANOVA tests, we're going to use goodness of fit tests. We're just going to change the test that you run, but you have the same process all the way throughout on all of these battles. You move the king basically to what it is you're testing. You write it out in words. You write it out in symbols. You drag the king to which is your claim. You run the test on the cards. Then you move the king to say, do I agree with the null? And if you agree with the null, you fail to reject. If you agree with the alternative, you reject. And then you report your results like this. And that's what I would do. So I move to here. I'm just going to randomly pick. I'm going to pick this guy. Is greater than 300. So now I come over here. The average is greater than 300, has to go here. And then here, the average would be less than or equal to 300 here. That's all I have to do. And my claim, if I go back one slide, my claim is greater than 300. So I have to come here and I have to move the king to the greater than 300, which that would be my claim right there. Oop, sorry, I did this wrong. Copy, paste this here. So the greater than 300, thank you for those of you who are thinking I did that wrong, because I did. The greater than 300 goes here, and the less than or equal to 300 goes there because it has the equal sign. So this has to go there because that's my claim, or I could put it up here because that's where I would write it out in words. Then I come here. I'm doing right now, I'm doing damage for level, let's see, what did I pick? Level 14. So I come here. I have to test the damage for level 14. So I come back over here. I find stat Z 1 sample with data. I'm going to go to damage level 14. This is a z-test because I know my standard deviation. It's right here, 266. So I type in 266. I can go back to my hypotheses, and it's greater than 300. So I need to type in the number 300 here. Need to make sure this says greater than. So this one right here matches this one right here. I have my critical value of significance level of 0.05. I hit compute. There we go. I got my p-value. Since my p-value is done and the p-value is really high, I'm going to agree with the null. And since I agree with the null, I fail to reject. And then I word it going back to the claim. So I go back to this claim. The claim was greater than 300. The null said less than or equal to 300, and I agreed with the null. So basically at this point in time, I fail to reject the null hypothesis as I did not find that the mean was greater than 300 for damage at level 14. So you would just report that. Now again, I have to report greater than 300 because back in my original thing, that's what I was testing. Is it greater than 300? I ran the test. My claim was the alternative. I ran the test. The test showed it wasn't. So I came over here. I run my test on this value. I agree with the null, which means I failed to reject. So I failed to reject the null. I agreed with it. And since the null said it was less than, so I go from there, but I have to report it as greater than 300. Okay, so that's the entire premise of how you do these tests in StatCrunch. And again, for all of our tests, it's basically the same thing. You just have to go through and you have to, move the king, pick it to the right number where you want it. Decide which symbols you want to use. And remember, the null hypothesis must always contain the equal sign. If you're not putting the equal sign in the null hypothesis, you're doing something wrong. Okay? It has to be in the equal sign. Then at the end, you have to decide, do I agree with the null or the alternative? If I agree with the null, I fail to reject. If I agree with the alternative, I reject it. Okay? And then you always report back to your claim. You always report back to your claim. Wherever I drag this, that's what I have to look at. I'm reporting as, is the average 205? So the answer has to be yes, it's 205, or no, it's not 205. Okay? So hopefully this helps just walk you through StatCrunch and how you're working on this. If you have any questions in the future, you can always come back to this video or ask me, but hopefully this helps narrow things down for you.